All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when you're watching this. We are 1 week away from our Unit 7 test. I feel like I messed up. Okay. I misled you a little bit on the most recent assignment, and I've gotten a whole lot of feedback saying, I'm really trying hard, but I just have no clue what to do. So I think where I went wrong in leading you in this particular lesson is the fact that I started by factoring on number one. Well, the problem with starting with factoring is you go apply the factoring method to number two and three, and it doesn't work. So the part that I should have emphasized more was the quadratic formula, which is what I did the second part of last video. So um, I'm going to rectify, or at least try to rectify the situation by solving these for you. Now, I don't feel bad because one, it'll give you a lot of clarification, but two, you're going to have several questions just like these on your review, which is what I am assigning along with this lesson. So I'm not giving you anything that's due tomorrow or Friday morning, depending on what day you are in my class. But I am assigning the review. And I'm also wanting you to make sure that you're signed up for the test, which is next Wednesday. We have two different times available on Wednesday and then one time available on Thursday. So please do that if you haven't already. All right, so let's do these two questions. And then if you have questions beyond this, please reach out either via email or Google Hangout, or some of you are setting up meets and inviting me. That's great as well. Anything that we can do to get you clarity with respect to these questions and then just Unit 7 material in general. So if you have struggled on the Unit 7 material, whether it's keeping up or not understanding the assignments, now is the time to buckle down. Okay, so you may be missing a lot of assignments, but in terms of understanding the content, you can do it from this point until the test. So take the review very seriously, work really hard on it, reach out to me as much as possible, as much as needed. Watch the old lesson videos, and then you will knock this test out of the park. So, and finish the year up on a great note. All right, so let's take a look at this, and then we can look at other review type stuff later. Also, real fast, a plug for Friday at 1. I've added the Google Meet link on Classroom. We are going to be basically conducting a practice test. So I'll answer a whole bunch of questions on the different content stuff, but then the first 20, 30 minutes will be me kind of walking you through what it's going to be like, making sure everybody's set up on the details and their technology works, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's look at this. So remember, this is the vertical motion model. So everything that goes up has to come down. That's our quadratic equation, right? That's our connection here. So this number 2 says a baseball is hit from a tee. Is that right? Yeah, t. And can be modeled by the quadratic function h of t equals negative 16t squared plus 18t plus 3, where h of t, so the height at any given time, that's what this means, right? The height of the baseball in feet at some time, right? And there can be any number of times that we could look for the height, right? But this is any height at any given time in seconds. So the baseball has been in the air. How long will the baseball be in the air before it's caught by an outfielder at a height of 6 feet? Okay. Well, we know the height now, okay, which is this h of t. So we're looking for the time when h of t equals 6 feet. That's part one. Okay. And then the second part will be when the ball lands on the ground, right? So if the baseball isn't caught, what's the time it will take to hit the ground? Well, that is a different problem, and that's when h of t equals 0 feet, which is lying on the ground. Okay, so let's set these up. This is my equation here in general. The only thing that's going to vary between these two things is the value of h of t, right? In one circumstance, we've got 6 feet, and the other, we've got 0 feet. So I'm going to set up two equations, and then I'm going to go to a different piece of paper to solve them using the quadratic formula. So negative 16t squared, and I am putting the 6 on the right side because I like that better. plus 18t plus 3. And we know that the height, when a person catches it for this first question, is at 6 feet. Okay? Now, we can't solve something using the quadratic formula with it like this. We have to set it up in standard form, which means we need to have this be gone, right? It has to be equal to 0, not 6. We'll talk about that more in a moment. The second one, the height is 0, so this makes it really easy. So negative 16t squared plus 18t plus 3. And the second circumstance or question says that the height is 0. And that makes sense. The ball's laying on the ground, right? So no height is there. Okay, so we've got two equations that we need to plug or use the quadratic formula to plug in values, right, to solve, to get the time, right? So we're looking for the time it takes the ball to hit the 6 foot mark when a person catches it. And if it flies past that 6 foot and lands on the ground at 0 feet, we're trying to find the time it takes to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to jump over here, a separate sheet. We're going to solve these. Okay. So remember, our quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of this thing we call the discriminant of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And now we have two equations. So let me see if I can show this to you here. I'm going to fold this paper. Okay, so we're going to focus on this one first. Okay, so we're going to do the one we're trying to find out the time it takes to hit the 6 foot mark, right? If somebody's standing there to catch the ball. All right, so we're going to use this equation. So I'm going to rewrite it on this paper. It was negative 16t squared plus 18t plus 3 equals 6. Okay, now we can't do math like this, or at least quadratic formula. So we have to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay, this changes this equation now to negative 16t squared plus 18t, and then 3 minus 6 is negative 3, and all of that equals 0. Now we can use the quadratic formula, which is here. So this is our a value, this is our b value, and this is our c value. So I'm going to plug those in where the quadratic formula says I have to. Okay, so negative b is 18 plus or minus the square root of, again, b squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 16, times c, which is negative 3. Okay, so let's just take a look at the discriminant for just a moment here. I guess I need to put those over 2 times a, which is negative 16. So the discriminant, we can throw this into our calculator in just a moment, but a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and then another negative is going to be a negative. So this is going to be 18 squared minus whatever this happens to be, this product. Okay, so if I put this in my calculator, I can literally put 18 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 3 straight in, and it's going to give me, I'm going to just rewrite everything that I know. Let me make sure I did my math right. That is 132 is the discriminant, all of this stuff, divided by negative 32, which is this product here. Okay, now this right here, the numerator, you can plug directly into the calculator. Okay, so we've got two values here. So negative 18, I'm going to plug this negative 18 plus the square root of 132. So I'm going to write both of these. So negative 18 plus the square root of 132 divided by negative 32 equals 0.20. Okay, so 0.20. And then I'm going to do, we did the plus sign, now I'm going to do the minus sign. So this is negative 18. So this is one solution. The second one is as follows, the square root of 132. And I'm going to put all of this in my calculator. I'm going to do the numerator first so that I can divide whatever I get for the numerator by negative 32. So I'm going to do negative 18 minus the square root of 132 divided by negative 32, and that gives me 0.92. Now this is seconds, and this is seconds. So we have to ask ourselves, which one of these makes sense? Okay. Now, remember, this is a quadratic function, right? So we're looking at the first quadrant only because we're only dealing with positive time and positive height. So the ball is thrown from 3 feet. Okay. So 3 feet, which means, yeah, kind of a shortish person throwing this ball. Oh, wait, no, it's off the tee. That's right. So 3 feet up is the tee. Okay. So we hit it here. It's going to go up and then eventually down. Okay. So let's say the person is standing here. This is our 6 feet. Okay. Now notice it's going to cross 6 feet right here too, right? But is this the time that the ball is caught? No, that doesn't make sense. So this zero point 0.2 seconds doesn't make sense, right? It has to be almost a full second later because the ball crosses from 3 feet. This is 3. It crosses 6 feet, goes up to whatever its max height is, and then it comes down to this 6-foot person catching the ball here. Okay. So this is the time that it takes to be caught by this 6-foot tall person or 6-foot high position of the glove. Okay. So that's part one, okay, of question 2. The second part was, when does it hit the ground? Well, let's take a look at the graph real fast. If this right here is at 0.92 seconds, we're looking for a value just slightly bigger than that, right? It's not very much time, but a little bit more time than 0.92 seconds to hit the ground, okay? So we're going to keep that common sense piece in mind as we do this next part. So the second equation, remember, was this set equal to 0. Okay, so this one is ready to go. So I'm going to rewrite this. So negative 16 t squared plus 18t plus 3 equals 0. Now I just plug this thing straight into the quadratic. Now, if you'll notice, this is plus 3 for the c value. This one up here was minus 3. So really, this quadratic function will be identical to the one we're about to do, except for this one number, the negative 3. Okay, so down here, it's going to be negative 18 plus or minus the square root. All of these values are the same, so 18 squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 16. But the last value in the discriminant is this c value, which is a positive 3. Okay, so now these two negatives will make a positive. So I'm going to have something larger here than I did up here at this 132. Okay, so all divided again over 2 times negative 16. So let's simplify this. When I throw this entire discriminant, which is the value of this expression under the radical, when I put that in my calculator, that gives me negative 18 plus or minus the square root of 516 divided by 2 times negative 16. And I should have simplified that, put negative 32. I'll remember to do that in my calculator. All right, so let's write down the two things we have. So negative 18 plus this square root of that big number divided by negative 32. And then we have negative 18 minus the square root of 516 divided by 32. Okay, so I'm going to go plug these into my calculator, and then we'll get our solutions. So negative 18 plus the square root of 516 equals that divided by negative 32 is negative 0.14. And then now I'm going to do this one. So negative 18 minus the square root of 516 divided by negative 32 equals 1.27. Remember, the units of these are seconds. All right, so let's go back to our graphic. We hit the ball off the tee. It goes to a certain max. We don't know that right now because we didn't calculate it. We could. And then someone catches it just shy of a second later, right? So that is pretty quick. This whole thing is happening. And then shortly after this, if this person wasn't standing here and it hit the ground, we know that we're going to have a time slightly bigger than 0.92 seconds. So come down to the two solutions we got. We have a negative 0.14 or 14 hundredths of a second, and then we have a 1.27 seconds. Now, this one obviously has to make sense. It's slightly bigger than our 0.92 and it's positive, right? We don't do negative time. So that doesn't make any sense. This is the time it would take for that tee ball or the ball hit off the tee to hit the ground. Okay. This is the time it takes for the ball to reach that person holding their glove 6 feet high. And then a short time later, okay, this is the amount of time it would take to hit the ground. All right. So those are the two solutions to the two questions for part two, or question number two. All right, let me come back over here, and I think I might have enough space. All right, so let me quickly move through this again. So we've got another h of t, right? The height at some certain time. This time it's a golf ball, right? And if you know anything about golf, the ball flies a lot longer than it does if you're hitting a baseball, okay? At least for most people, certainly off a tee. All right, so now we have a question that says, when is the golf ball above a height of 100 feet? So our height is 100. So let's set this up. So negative 16t squared plus 150t plus 0.1 equals, the question itself tells us that we're talking about a height of 100 feet. Well, we can't plug these values into the quadratic formula yet because it has to be equal to 0. So we subtract 100 from both sides, right? Now, these two are the like terms. 100 or minus 100 does not have a t or a t squared, so it has to be taken away from the decimal 1. So let's rewrite it, and then we'll use our quadratic formula. So t squared plus 150t. Now, 0.1 or 1/10 minus 100 is going to be negative 99.9, all equal to 0. All right, now we're squared away. We're ready to use our quadratic formula. I'm not going to rewrite it because I've already written it down previously in this video. So I'm just going to plug these values straight in. So negative b is 150, plus or minus the square root of our of our discriminant, which is 150 squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 16, times c, which is negative 99.9. Okay, now this is a big, yucky looking number, but the calculator will make that much more simple for us in just a moment. So all divided by 2 times negative 16. All right, I'm going to go put the discriminant in the calculator, and 150 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 99.9. That gives me, so negative 150 plus or minus the square root of 16,106 and 4/10. Okay. All divided by, again, negative 32. All right, so I'm going to plug in the numerator first. Okay, remember we have a negative 150 plus this thing and a negative 150 minus this thing. So I'm going to rewrite those up here. So 150 plus the square root of 16106.4, all divided by negative 32. And then we have one more, and that's negative 150 minus the square root of 16,106.4, all divided by negative 32. Okay, so these two things represent our solutions, and then we'll talk about what they mean in a moment. Okay, so negative 150 plus the square root of that 16,000 number. Oh, I mistyped it here. 150. I'm going to have to delete that. Sorry about that. So negative 150 plus the square root of that 16,000 number, all divided by negative 32, is 0.72 when I round, so that's seconds. And then the subtraction solution right here is negative 150 minus the square root of that 16,106 and 4/10 number, divided by negative 32 equals 8.65 when I round seconds. Now, the question is, When is the golf ball above a height of 100 feet? Okay. Well, remember this is quadratic, so we've got two solutions here. Now let's look at a picture real fast. Okay. So I hit a golf ball. It says the initial height is zero point 0.1, so I guess it's being hit off another type of tee, right? So it goes like this. Okay. Well, we have two solutions. One is at 0.72, okay, and then another is at 8.65. And that makes sense because the ball is going to fly up to 100 and it's going to stay above 100 the entire time until it hits the second solution. So our answer for this one should include both of these numbers. So the ball is above from 72 hundredths of a second to 8 and 65 hundredths of a second. So it's above 100 from this time to this time. Okay. And notice on our picture, you can see before that particular time it was below 100 feet. And then after the second solution, or 8.65 seconds, it's below again. Okay. All right. So I really, really hope that this brings some clarification for you all. Again, you're going to see two more practice problems on the review I'll post. If this does not help, please let me know. I really think it will now that we've talked about how to find these equations relative to the height given to us in the different questions. Okay. So hopefully that brings some clarification for you. And yeah, you're not as confused. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And please join the Friday 1 o'clock Google Meet. That will be a practice test. So I'll give you some questions to work on. We'll talk about some strategies. We'll go over some stuff. Again, the review is super, super important. Please complete that. Hope you all are well. And I look forward to seeing your faces soon. Take care.